time I go get coffee, she's gonna say, look out, like duck, or be safe. I also want to tell you guys that the best way I can say it is that one of my favorite Dr. King quotes is, darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. And he says, hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. That quote was always ironic to me because everywhere I go in America, not everywhere, but most places, when I go down King Drive, I see a lot of under-resourced communities, which leads to violence and leads to darkness. And so King Drive in Detroit, I see darkness. King Drive in Houston, I see a lot of darkness. King Drive in Chicago, I see a lot of darkness. And I was just at a community group meeting recently on King Drive, and I was there talking about putting up a basketball court on King Drive because there's people in Chicago that believe basketball courts are magnets for violence. So if you take all the basketball courts down, the neighborhoods will be safer. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me, so we're putting basketball hoops back up at my block, my hood, my city. It's called Safe Street Ball. Thank you. So we're putting hoops back up. We believe that 50 to 60 kids per day can play at those parks if those rims are up, so we're putting rims up all across the city. But while I was on King Drive, there was a professor of urban studies, and he talked to a group of hundreds of people about, he had a big chart with heat maps, and he talked about all the homicides that were on King Drive. And he said since January, there's been 13 homicides on King Drive, and everybody in the room went silent. They were in disbelief, they were shocked, right? And they were shocked not because there had been 13 homicides on King Drive, they were shocked because the professor's numbers were way off. Somebody said, man, it's been way more bodies than that. There was just 2 shootings earlier last week. Another lady said it was just 2 shootings the week before at the front of the park, Jahmal. And the professor said, that's my point exactly. That's my point. These are the only numbers that are being reported because we don't speak up as a community. He said, we done got used to the darkness. We done got used to sounds of shots fired. It's like, he said that it's an education reform word. He said we've become desensitized. We've become passionless. We've become relaxed as a people, as he put it. And it got me thinking that, why are we so conditioned in Chicago? It's like we live next to the red line or the CTA and it goes above your house every couple minutes, right? When you first move next to the CTA, you can't even eat, you can't even sleep. It bothers you every hour. After a few weeks of staying there, it bothers you a little bit, but it don't creep up on you no more. After 6 months of living next to the CTA, you barely hear it. You start to raise your voice when a train passes, right? That's how we become in Chicago on King Drive. We become conditioned to the shot spotter technology. We don't even notice the sound of helicopters going over our house anymore, y'all. We don't even notice when we order our food through bulletproof glass windows anymore. I asked a teenager recently, I said, how does it make you feel when you go into Popeyes or KFC and they put your food in a bulletproof glass jar and they slide it out to you like you're an inmate in solitary? How does that make you feel? You know, the teenager said, what bulletproof glass, Jahmal? He didn't even know it was there, right? We don't even notice when we go into the beauty supply store, they put little locks on the do-rags. They put locks on the eyelashes. And everybody says, well, Jahmal, that's because they don't want, man, they're putting a lock on your intelligence in Chicago. They're putting a lock on your aspirations. They're putting a lock on our minds, really, in Chicago. So at this community group meeting, the professor said, there's been 13 homicides on King Drive since January, and it's alarming to me that that's not alarming to you, right? So he asked the teenager, he said, hey, how would you work with the stakeholders in your neighborhood to reduce violence in Chicago? And the stakeholders on King Drive are the apartment building owners. The professor asked the teenager, he said, how would you engage the stakeholders in your community to help you reduce violence? You know what the teenager said? We got to keep stepping on their necks, get into their grills, keep blazing them until they change. The professor said, no. How would you engage the stakeholders in the neighborhood on how to reduce violence? The teenager said, we got to keep stepping on their grills, getting to their necks, blazing them. Like, even when the teenager was trying to talk about something positive, he still had darkness in his voice, y'all. He still had a lot of darkness in his voice. So how do we reduce this stuff on King Drive? And I'm gonna go back to what I was saying earlier about the power of being. I was telling y'all earlier, I was at a coffee shop in Inglewood. I was there, and a lady said, she gave me my coffee in a to-go cup. She slid it, she said, be careful, Jahmal. I was like, be careful, what, was the coffee hot? She said, no, it's not hot. I mean, be careful when you got shot twice last year. Be careful when you walk out in Chicago. And that shocked me because I was expecting her to say, be safe. That's how we say in Chicago, be safe. But now we're saying, stay dangerous. Now they're saying, be careful. That means next year they're gonna be saying, look out, duck, be safe. In some parts of the world, they say, be easy. In New York, all right, man, be easy. Regardless of how you say it, that word be is powerful. Like, most of us, we don't think of the word be as being an action verb. You don't wake up and you don't be like, oh, I'm gonna just wake up today and be. I'm gonna brush my teeth and go be some more. We don't say that. We just go about our day and we assume everything gonna be okay. Not in Chicago. In Chicago, we can't even take just being for granted. Pumping gas at nighttime is a gamble for your life. You gotta say, do I stop on 69th and get gas? Or at midnight? Yo, listen, calling the Uber to take you to the airport, you can't even just do that without thinking now. The Uber driver will show up to your house and say, you going to O'Hare or Midway? You going on vacation, huh? How long you gonna be gone? And then once I'm gonna be going they go back to your house and clean you out. Do I call an Uber from my house or down the block? That's a good question to ask if you care about your well-being in Chicago, right? Listen, kids can't even be safe when they're walking. Kids don't even say they're walking to school. They say they're going on a mission. Every other block you see a crossing guard, basically a person with a yellow reflect. That's called shots. What do they call? They call safe passage. That's a multi-million-dollar program where they pay people to stand outside on the routes where your kids walk to school because they want them to be safe. It's crazy, man. So I also wanted to share with you guys that my sister told me recently about an activist in Chicago that this activist, she passes out turkeys in under-resourced communities for the holidays. That's what she does. And it's a streamlined event. It's amazing. She's connected the will to do good with the good that needs to be done. So she passes out thousands of turkeys. And one day the activist posted online that she needed donations to buy more turkeys. And so my sister knows I have a heart to help, so she reached out to me. I reached out to the activist. We connected at the same coffee shop I'm telling you guys about. And I learned more and I made a donation. But now mind you, I never heard of this activist before, never met her at all, even though she has a track record of doing great work. So I was excited to meet her. She showed up at the coffee shop. When she came in, the first thing she said to me was, how come I don't ever see you at none of the rallies or the marches? How come you're not on the front lines with the other activists? And I was like, excuse me? She said, yeah, how come I don't ever see you at none of the rallies or the marches? How come you're not on the front lines with all the other activists? Now again, I never met this person before. Never, even though we're activists in the same city. Chicago is like that. It's a big city in a small phone book, right? Very segregated. Even amongst the activists, it's segregated, right? So when she said that, my first reaction when she said, why aren't you at the rallies? My first reaction was for my ego. I'd be like, what? How dare you call me out, lady? I'm an activist. You know how many rallies and marches I've been to? You know how many millions of dollars my company's given out in Chicago? How dare you call? That's what I wanted to say, but I got a lot of friends down south, and they always got these southern sayings, and they say things like, a hurt dog gonna bark. A hurt dog, and I didn't want to be a hurt dog and bark at her, right? So, and I have thought about this before, like not being at the rallies and marches. I do think about that because I watch the news sometimes. I don't watch the news a lot, but I watch it sometimes because I got to stand guard at the door of my thoughts and watch what I take in. So I don't really like watching a lot of news. It's so negative. But I do see the rallies and the marches. I do see when someone passes away, there's activists to speak with the families. I see the rallies. That's not my brand of activism. Like, I don't feel like I have to hold a megaphone to make a difference. What I did is I started a nonprofit organization, and I work with 150 students a month, and I take them on educational field trips, and I expose them to different cultures, different professions, and different cuisines. I think if you show kids better, they can do better in Chicago. If they don't know any better, that's not as sexy as holding a megaphone, but that's my brand of activism. So when she told me how come she doesn't see me at the rallies and the marches, how come I'm not on the front lines, I told her, I said, listen, you know, there's a lot of activists in Chicago. And we all have our different roles to play in fighting against injustice. Like, we actually all have different tactics and agendas on how we address issues too, but some activists, their specialty is following ambulances and making sure causes aren't forgotten. Some activists, their specialty is passing out turkeys for Thanksgiving. Some activists, their specialty is being historians. Some activists, their specialty is starting nonprofits. Some activists don't even have a solution thought out, and all of that is okay. All that is great for Chicago because it puts pressure on institutions to address issues we care about, right? I thought that was a pretty good answer. You know what the lady said to me? She said, well, everybody can't be like Malcolm X. I guess somebody gotta be like Dr. King too. I said, well, she said, yeah, everybody can't be an activist like Malcolm X. I said, why can't I be like Malcolm? She said, no, you gotta be like Dr. King. So I gave her the donation and I walked away, but it got me thinking in my head, like, how would somebody think that Malcolm X was more significant than Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. or Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., right? Or vice versa. Why would somebody think Martin Luther King was better or more significant than Malcolm X, right? And so they're all activists, right? They're all activists. And so what I did was, what'd you say? Yes, sir. So what I did was I looked up in the dictionary. What is an activist? And the dictionary says an activist is a person that campaigns to bring about political or social change. That's it. A person that campaigns to bring about political or social change. Now, my people in the South, their definition of activist is way different. You know, I talked to a guy recently, he said, if you're not willing to go to jail or die like Che Guevara, you're not an activist. There's too many justice warriors nowadays. There's too many armchair activists. I don't know who's fighting for humanity or fighting for Instagram nowadays. You know what I mean? Like, if you're not willing to go to jail or die like Che Guevara, you're not an activist. Well, the dictionary doesn't say that. The dictionary just says you have to be willing to campaign to bring about political or social change. So then I started thinking about the different types of activists. Now, I see Derrick Rose, he just retired. Now he's an activist in Chicago. Look at all types of rappers in Chicago, like Common, he inspired my activism. There's all types of activists. Like, what is a job description of an activist, right? So I looked at my job description. My job description says, this role has internal and external facing dimensions, intent on listening to and discerning the voice of the community. The incumbent must translate those messages into programs and actions that are affirming and positive to the community. I'll say it again. So my job description, I've been doing this for years for my nonprofit. My job description says, this role has external and internal facing dimensions, intent on listening to and discerning the voice of the community. The incumbent, me, I must translate those messages into programs and actions that are affirming and positive in my community. I like that definition because it makes me feel like we all can be activists, right? Because we all can keep our ear to the streets and rapidly respond to what's going on in the area, right? That's all I really do at my block, my hood, my city. If there's a snowstorm, we shovel snow for seniors. If there's a heat wave, we show up and we deliver water and fans to seniors. If there was a meteor that hit Chicago tomorrow, we would figure out a way. I love that brand of activism. And I'm gonna share a little bit about myself before I don't want to take up all your day, but like, look, I only applied to one university in high school. I only applied to one, and that was Howard University, of course. That's where I applied. And you know, I applied to Howard because that's where all the famous rappers went, right? That's where all the famous. My friends and I, we didn't match the skills we had with whatever colleges offered. We just chose colleges based upon, did famous rappers go there or were they on ESPN? That's how I chose Howard University. And so there was a $75 application fee, which I didn't have, because I lived in a motel with my dad on 52nd Street. I lived in a motel. I ate at the Catholic Charities every day in high school. I was so embarrassed eating at the Charities because my classmates in high school, they would be volunteering at the Catholic Charities with the clear gloves, and my dad would say, hold your head up high when you get the food. Don't be embarrassed. I was so ashamed to get food in high school because my classmates would be there. And my dad would make me go get the food. So we didn't have $75, right? We didn't have, and by the way, the Catholic, it was great food, because it might as well have been Gibson Steakhouse on Rush. I'd never been to a restaurant before. They had porcelain plates. They had cutlery. I mean, they had etchings. I was like, this is what Europe looks like looking at the plates. I was like, this is good food, right? They give you seconds, so we didn't have $75, but my dad found a way to apply to Howard. I applied at the beginning of my senior year and never heard anything back all year. Didn't hear anything from Howard all year. So about a month before high school graduation, I went to my guidance counselor and said, hey, I applied to Howard University. They haven't got back to me. She said, well, Jahmal, you go to an alternative school. You can't go to a Division I college. You barely come to school. I was like, what's Division I? I didn't know the difference between Division I, Division. I was like, what is that? I just know I'm going to the league, lady. I'm about to go to the NBA and get my parents out this hotel. I'm tired of living coming home and seeing mice eating up our bread. I'm getting out this motel. She said, well, Jahmal, you're not going to the league, Jahmal. You don't even come to school. Anyway, man, her phone rang and she left the office. She left the office, and when she left the office, I looked out her door, and it was like God shining down on me. It was a black book with gold letters on the spine. It said, All American Colleges. I grabbed the book, I opened it up, and I ripped the page out of it, shoved it in my pocket. I didn't even look at it. Just ripped the page out of it, shoved it in my pocket. My guidance counselor comes back to the office, blah, blah, blah. You hating on me, lady. You talking down on me. You just hating on me. I'm going to the league, lady. I just told you I'm getting out this motel. I'm going to the NBA. She said, you can't do that. So I left the office. I took the paper out of my pocket. I looked at it. It said Wayne State College, Nebraska. I said, man, Nebraska? I said, man, why couldn't this be Florida, New York City at least? What's in Nebraska, Buffaloes? I don't know. I'm from Chicago, man. But I didn't have the internet. I never met anybody that went to college. Never, bro. If I went to high school 2 days in a week, my dad would say, you going to school again today? I never met anybody that went to college. I mean, the first time I ever ate lasagna was I broke into a house to eat it. I was 11. When I ate it, I was like, this is what it tastes like to be rich. Like we didn't even break into houses for money. We broke into houses to eat cereal and kiwis. I mean, fruit. Like that was never even took anything, just food. So, anyways, man, I never met anybody who graduated from college. So all I had was this paper. So the number said 402-375-7000. And so I called up the number, a lady named Nancy. Nancy at Wayne State College. I said, Nancy, y'all got a basketball team? I'm going to the league, Nancy. I'm going to the league like Kobe. Send me some information. Long story long, they sent me some information, and they accepted people from alternative high schools in Chicago and all over the country. So Wayne State College accepted me. That's probably why the book was in my guidance counselor's office in the first place, but they accepted me. And when I got accepted, they sent me a letter in the mail. It was a magazine. It had manicured lawns. It had computer screens. I felt like I was going to Notre Dame, man. This is amazing. I'm going to the league, man. I was so happy that I got accepted to college. I was so happy. I brought this letter everywhere in the motel. I brought it back to I said, Mom, check it out, Ma. I got accepted to Wayne State College in Nebraska. I'm going to the league, Ma. I'm about to buy you a Cadillac. We're going to get out the hood. My mom looked at the acceptance letter. She said, man, you got accepted to college in Nebraska? I said, yeah. She said, well, in Nebraska, what are you trying to be, white? I was like, no, Mom, I'm not trying to be white. I'm trying to go to the league, Mom. But I didn't live with my mom. I lived in a Motel Hill with my dad on 52nd. So I already had adversity, whatever. My mom was worried about me, rightfully so. So I took the letter to my friends on the block. I said, Jeremy, check it out, Jeremy. I got accepted to Wayne State College in Nebraska. I'm going to the league, man. I'm about to buy you a Cadillac. We're going to get out the hood, man. Jeremy said, you got accepted to college? You leaving the block? You leaving the neighborhood? Man, I ain't going nowhere. I got jumped by my own friend. I got my whole jaw broke that summer. You think you better than everybody, man. You're not better than us because you're going to college. You think you better than everybody. Man, this is a bad luck acceptance letter. So I took the acceptance letter to the last person I could, which was my dad, back in Motel Hill. I said, Pops, I got accepted to Wayne State College in Nebraska, Pops. I'm about to go to the league, man. I'm about to buy you a Cadillac, bro. We gonna get out this motel. We ain't gonna have the fiends knocking on our door every night. We don't gotta go to sleep afraid. I'm about to go to the league, man. My dad said, you got accepted to college? I said, in Nebraska? I said, yeah. Yo, I ain't saying things to say things. That same night, my dad stole a U-Haul truck and drove me 11 hours away to Nebraska. That same night, right? And when you're 17 years old in Chicago, you get a $500 credit card in the mail. It's like a Capital One card. Like, well, I bought a pair of Air Force Ones. I ain't gonna lie, I bought a pair of Air Force Ones. I bought some white t-shirts, and I had a basketball. And who steals a 17-foot U-Haul truck, by the way? We didn't have anything in the back of the U-Haul truck but a pair of shoes, a basketball, and I bought a Michigan State visor. Why would I don't know why I did something like that, a Michigan State visor. But anyway, we were off to Nebraska. And about an hour before we got there, I was getting scared. There was cornfields this tall. I'm afraid. And my dad says, Jahmal, I gotta tell you something. I said, what's up, Pops? He said, you've already done things in the family nobody else, not much I can tell you anymore, son. You've already surpassed everybody in the family. But I do wanna let you know one thing. I said, what's up, Pops? He said, about 6 months ago back in Motel Hill, I got the letter from Howard University in the mail. Whew, I'm gonna try not to cry. Whew. And he was like, it hurt me to see you going downstairs looking for that letter every day, but Howard didn't accept you. And I knew that if I'd have showed it to you, you wouldn't have tried anymore. He would say you would have stayed in the community with your friends, and you wouldn't have tried. And that was really powerful. That was powerful for me. Because my dad, that's the best thing he ever did for me was steal a U-Haul truck. And so the first day I pulled up on campus at Wayne State, the first time I pulled up, I went right to the basketball coach's office. And I said, I'm Jahmal, I'm from Chicago, I'm going to the league, man. I'm about to go to the league, I'm about to be like Kobe. Everybody was like 7 foot tall from England, Iowa. It was like, man, you can't just walk in a room and say you're going to the league. You gotta get recruited. And I was like, man, what does recruiting mean? I didn't even know how to play with referees. I was like, man, I'm going to the league. I'm about to buy my family a Cadillac. They kicked me out the office. Every day for 2 months, I stopped at this coach's office just to say, hey, coach, you see Allen Iverson play last night? You see Kobe? I'm gonna be like that, man. I'm about to go to the league like that. Put me on your team. Every day, I don't care if it was me. Coach, what's up, I'm Jahmal? Put me on your team. After 2 months, this coach, his name is Rico Burkett, He's a head coach at Colorado right now. And he, after 2 months of seeing me, he's like, man, you're the most persistent person I know. And he let me walk onto the basketball team. Like at an all-white university, he let me walk onto the basketball team. And when he called me and told me I tried out and made the team, you know me, I called everybody back. I'm going to the league. Y'all want to go to the league. Like, I've never had nothing growing up. I lived in a motel on 52nd Street. I never had a pair of shoes. I never had a pair of basketball shorts. I played in cut-off jeans. Now I'm signed by Adidas. Now I'm jumping on I've never been on a plane. Now I'm going to Hawaii to play in the Maui Classic. I'm going to the league, man. What? We're playing on ESPN? I'm about to go to the league. After 6 months of playing basketball at Wayne State, my coach, Rico Burkett, he said, Jahmal, come to my office. I came to his office. He said, we like you a lot, man. You show up every day. You're okay at basketball, but your work ethic is great. He said, I got a question for you. I said, what's up? He said, why do you only have a 1.7 GPA? And I was like, man, you know what? I went to an alternative high school in Chicago. I'm not used to having teachers, let alone professors. I don't know how to study. Plus, y'all, I can't afford any books. I'm not on a scholarship. I've never even read a book my whole life. Plus, the people in Nebraska are racist. If you haven't realized, the first media day, the news in Nebraska, they said, this is the news. They come up to me and said, Jahmal, will you talk to my little brother on the cell phone? He's never talked to a black basketball player before, but he watches the NBA all the time. Will you talk to him? I said, that's racist, coach. You want to know why I'm not getting good grades? Man, it's cold out here. I don't have no money. I hate the food. Y'all treat me racist? I said, I'm having a hard time adjusting in Nebraska, man. It smells like manure outside every day. I'm homesick. And my coach, again, his name is Rico Burkett. He was really patient with me. I needed him to be. I was like, man, I don't have no money. I'm hungry. He just stopped me. He said, Jahmal, you know what's missing from your list? I said, no, what? He said, your name's not on it. He said, no excuses. The highest level of maturity is taking full responsibility for your actions. I was like, what? I was like, I'm not making any excuses. You just asked me why to have bad grades. I just told you it's cold out here. I don't have no money. I hate, y'all treat me racist, man. You got me practicing twice a day. I want to make some friends. I'm tired. I'm trying to watch Scarface tonight. He said, Jahmal, no excuses, man. The highest level of maturity is taking full responsibility for your actions. And he kicked me out the office, right? He told me to come back again the next day at 5 a.m. I woke up, snowstorm, 5 a.m., got to his office. He sat me down and slid an envelope to me. I opened it up. It was $500 cash. This is the second time in my life I had $500. I just told him, I'm going to the league. What, $500? I'm like, man, thank you. He's like, I want you to take this money and go buy some books. I bought another pair of Air Force Ones, right? I bought a Kirk Heinrich jersey. I don't know why I would do something like that, but that's what I did. And I bought 4 of the 5 books that I needed in the bookstore, right? I didn't buy business stats, but I bought 4 of the 5 books I needed. In one semester at Wayne State, I went from a 1.7 GPA to a 3.5 GPA in one semester, right, at Wayne. Thank you. I figured out how to separate immediate gratification from long-term rewards. I got a mentor, and I had a 3.5. I had 4 A's and a C on my second report card. 4 A's. I never had an A in my life. I never had an A my whole life. So I went to my coach and said, you got to start me now. Look, 4 A's and a C, coach. I got to start. I'm going to the league, man. You can't say you was hating on me last semester about not playing me because my grades. I got 4 A's and a C. Check it out, man. What you going to say to me? And Coach Rico, he looked at my report card. He looked at me. He looked at my report card. He looked back at me. His exact words were, why the hell did you get a C? I said, why did I get a C? I just told you it's cold out here. I don't got no money. I hate the food. Y'all treat me racist, man. I said, I'm having a hard time adjusting in Nebraska, man. You should be proud of me. You sound like my guidance counselor back in high school, man. You should be proud of me, man. I'm doing all, he said, Jahmal, no excuses. The highest level of maturity is taking full responsibility for your actions. I tell y'all that story because the whole time I was at Wayne State, I barely played. I played 5 minutes of basketball in 3.5 years. I barely played. You know how many Cadillacs I promised people on my block back home about to go into the league? I was ashamed that I graduated college with straight A's. I was a scholar athlete. I traveled the world for free. But I didn't appreciate it because I didn't see success as anything different than going to the NBA or being a rapper. That's all I saw it as, right? And so I was so upset. I cried when I walked. My parents couldn't afford to come see me walk the stage. So I cried when I walked the stage in college. But I was so mad at my coach, Rico Burkett. I was so mad I wrote a book about him. Like, can you be so mad at somebody you can write a book about him? I did. My first book got published by a company in Atlanta. And the company, they made $96,000 or something like that on my first book. And they gave me, I don't know, maybe $8,000. No, they gave me $4,300, something like that. So I bought a pinky ring. I went to Hawaii, and I was broke again. I was like, man, the next time that I actually write a book, I'm going to publish it myself. And so that's what I did. I wrote a motivational book called Athletes and MCs, and I started selling them downtown Chicago in front of Foot Locker on Adams and State. Every day between 2 o'clock and 6 o'clock, I would get out there and sell books. And on a good day, 2 out of every 100 people that walk by me will buy a book. On a great day, 3 out of every 100 people that walk by me will buy a book. No matter how good or great the day was, 97 people still, no, I don't even read. No, man, I'll catch you next time, bro. No, right? But in 6 months, I probably made over $60,000. I made so much money in front of Foot Locker selling books that Toyota gave me the Entrepreneur Competition of the Year. I won $50,000 from Toyota and a brand new car. And they flew me out to LA to compete for the Entrepreneur of the Year, and I ended up winning. More so than money that I won in front of Foot Locker, though, somebody from Cook County Jail read the book at Cook County Jail. And they said, hey, this is a great story about how you come from 52nd in a motel and you went to college. Will you come to the jail and talk to the 18-year-olds? And I was like, y'all gonna buy some books? They was like, yeah, we'll buy some books. I was like, cool. So I got to the jail, and they were like, oh, no, we didn't say 18-year-olds. We said AT. It's an acronym for automatic transfer. These young men and women are going to prison for 10 to 20 plus years, but before they go to prison, will you inspire them? I was like, what? They was like, yeah, and they took them out, like, in Cook County, I'm talking about the real shackles, like the slavery shackles, like taking them out the shackles to speak in a room with me. And my life changed this day. This day my life changed. When they took the young men and women out the shackles, they weren't like, you know how the news, they try to make people seem so vicious on the news and like they're just super criminals. But when you see 15 and 14 and 13-year-old kids in Cook County Jail, they got great smiles, personalities, they're funny. It's like, wow, you're the person I heard about on the news tonight? Once they clear it up, it's a lot different. So it was my job to speak to them in jail. And so I did. And this guy named Marquell, I'll never forget. I said, Marquell, why hasn't your life worked out for you up until right now? Why are you're not listening to me, you laughing, whatever. Why hasn't it worked out for you? Why are you here? You know what he said? It's cold out here, I got no money, I hate the food, they treat me racist. He said, I'm having a hard time adjusting in these streets. I was like, man, that's my list. I said, that's the same list I gave my college coach. He said, the city is messed up, the coaches is messed up. I was like, ah. That's when it dawned on me that the whole time I was in college, my coach, Burkett, he wasn't teaching me to change my jump shot, right? He was teaching me to change my philosophy, y'all. Like, back in 2008, I was blaming everybody. The city is messed up, though. The mayor's messed up. The alderman, my philosophy was messed up. It's messed up, y'all. And in Chicago, it's the same way right now. You ask somebody, you say, why does your block look like this, man? You know what they say? The alderman's messed up, the mayor's messed up. That philosophy is messed up for us. That philosophy is messed up. My organization is My Block, My Hood, My City, and our philosophy is 15 words. It's what's something simple I can do that'll have a positive impact on my block. What's something simple you can do to make a difference on your block? Listen, y'all, we do the simplest things in the world. If you go down King Drive right now, you see a lot of helicopter lights and police car lights. We hang holiday lights on King Drive. Like, we decorate 500 homes for free every holiday season. And that little simple act, it interrupts trauma a little bit, right? It inspires hope in the whole block, all the way down King Drive, right? Again, I told you we shovel snow. We just keep on showing up. I was inspired by all these people growing up, man. Like, in the motel, my dad played Martin Luther King Jr., Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. He played Malcolm X. He played Stokely Carmichael. He played, you name it, Gil Scott-Heron. I grew up listening to these activists. So I would have never known growing up in Chicago, eating my food at the Catholic Charities, that I would turn out to be a volunteer for life. I didn't even know what a volunteer was, right? But I think God has a battery in my back and a calling for me, because now what I do is I get to travel around the country, I get to travel around Chicago and recruit volunteers to do small things in their block. So you don't really have to know who's on the mayor's cabinet or the president's cabinet. Just ask yourself, what's something simple I can do that'll have a positive impact in my block? Listen, my name is Jahmal Cole. I appreciate you guys having me. And look, I didn't make it to the league as far as the NBA, but I found my own league in life. I found my own league. I think we all can find our own leagues too. Thank y'all for having me, y'all. I'm going to the league.